नमः पार्वती पतये हर 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 महादेव। नमोऽस्त्वनन्ताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादा शिशिरोरुबावे सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाय शाश्वते सहस्रकोटि युगधारिणे नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दमूर्तये निष्प्रपञ्चाय शान्ताय निरालम्बाय तेजसे नित्यानन्दाय गुरवे शिष्यसंसारहारिणे भक्तकार्येकदेहाय नमस्ते चित्सदात्मने। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ नमो गुरुभ्यो गुरुपादुकाभ्यो नमः परेभ्यः परपादुकाभ्यः आचार्यसिद्धे स्वरपादुकाभ्यो नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यः। ऐङ्कार ऐङ्काररहस्ययुक्ता श्रीङ्कारगूढा तमहाविभूत्या ओङ्कारमर्म प्रतिपादिनीभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। होत्राग्निहोत्राग्निहवेशहोत्रे होमादिसर्वा प्रीतिभासमानं यद्ब्रह्म तद्बोधवितारिणीभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। कामादिसर्प व्रजगारुणाभ्यां विवेकवैराग्यनिधि प्रदाभ्यां बोधप्रदाभ्यां द्रुतमोक्षदाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। अनन्तसंसारसमुद्रता नौकायिताभ्यां स्थिरभक्तिदाभ्यां जाड्याब्दिशंसो क्षणवाडवाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ अस्य श्री गुरुगीतास्तोत्रमन्त्रस्य भगवान् सदाशिवऋषि नानाविधानि छन्दांसि श्रीगुरो परमात्मा देवता हम सह शक्ति क्रोकीलकं श्रीगुरो प्रसाद सिद्ध्यर्थे जपे विनियोगः अथ ध्यानम् हंसाभ्यां परिवृत्तपत्रकमले दिव्ये जगत्कारणे विश्वकीर्णमनेकदेहनिलये स्वच्छन्दमात्मेच्छया तद्योदं पदसम्भवं तु चरणं दीपाङ्कुरग्राहिणं प्रत्यक्षाक्षरविग्रहं गुरुपदं ध्यायेद्विभुं शाश्वतम्। सूत उवाच कैलासशिखरे रम्ये भक्तिसन्धाननायकं प्रणम्य पार्वती भक्त्या शङ्करं परिपृच्छति। श्रीदेव्योवाच ॐ नमो देवदेवेश परात्पर जगद्गुरो सदाशिव महादेव गुरुदीक्षां प्रदेहि मे। केन मार्गेण भो स्वामिन् देहि ब्रह्ममयो भवेत् त्वं कृपां कुरु मे स्वामिन् नमामि चरणौ तव। ईश्वर उवाच मम रूपासि देवि त्वं त्वत्प्रीत्यर्थं वदाम्यहं लोकोपकारकप्रश्नो न केनापि कृतः पुरा दुर्लभं त्रिषु लोकेषु तच्छृणुष्व वदाम्यहं गुरुं विना ब्रह्मणान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं वरानने। वेदशास्त्रपुराणानि इतिहासादिकानि च मन्त्रयन्त्रादिविद्याश्च स्मृतिरुच्चाटनादिकं शैवशाक्तगमादीनि अन्यानि विविधानि च अपभ्रंशकराणिह जीवानां भ्रान्तचेतसाम्। यज्ञं व्रतं तपोदानं जपं तीर्थं तथैव च गुरुतत्त्वमभिज्ञाय मूढस्ते चरते जना। गुरुर्बुद्ध्यात्मनो नान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं न संशयः तल्लाभार्थं प्रयत्नस्तु कर्तव्यो हि मनीषिभिः। गूढविद्या जगन्माया देहे चाज्ञानसम्भवा उदयो यत्प्रकाशेन गुरुशब्देन कथ्यते। सर्वपापविशुद्धात्मा श्रीगुरुपादसेवनात् देहि ब्रह्म भवेद्यस्मात् त्वत्कृपार्थं वदामि ते। गुरुपादाम्बुजं स्मृत्वा गुरुं शिरसि धारयेत् सर्वतीर्थभगाहास्य सम्प्राप्नोति फलं नरः। शोषणं पापपङ्कस्य दीपनं तेजसां गुरुपादोदकं सम्यक् संसारणवतारकम्। अज्ञानमूलहरणं जन्मकर्मनिवारणं ज्ञानवैराग्यसिद्ध्यर्थं गुरुपादोदकं पिबेत्। गुरुपादोदकं पीत्वा गुरुरुच्छिष्टभोजनं गुरुमूर्ते सदा ध्यानं गुरुमन्त्रं सदा जपेत्। काशीक्षेत्रं तन्निवासो जाह्नवीचरणोदकं गुरुर्विश्वेश्वरा साक्षात् तारकं ब्रह्मनिष्ठितं। गुरुपादोदकं यत्तु गया सौ प्रसादतः गुरुर्ध्यानं सदा कुर्यात् कुलस्त्री स्वपतिर्यथा स्वाश्रमं च स्वजातिं च स्वकीर्तिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् एतत् सर्वं परित्यज्य गुरुरन्यभावेत् अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो मां सुलभं परमं पदम् तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन गुरोराराधनं कुरु त्रैलोक्यस्फुटवक्तारो देवाद्यसुरपन्नगा गुरुवक्त्रस्थिता विद्या गुरुभक्त्या गुकारस्त्वन्धकारश्च ऋकारस्तेज उच्यते अज्ञानग्रासकं ब्रह्म गुरुरेव न संशयः गुकारः प्रथमो वर्णो मायादिगुणभासकः ऋकारो द्वितीयो ब्रह्म मायाभ्रान्तिविनाशनम् एवं गुरुपदं श्रेष्ठं देवानामपि दुर्लभम् आहो गणश्चैव गन्धर्वैश्च प्रपूज्यते ध्रुवं तेषां च सर्वेषां नास्ति तत्त्वं गुरोः परम् आसनं शयनं वस्त्रं भूषणं वाहनादिकम् साधकेन प्रदातव्यं गुरुसन्तोषकारकम् गुरोराराधनं कार्यं स्वजीवित्वं निवेदये कर्मणा मनसा वाचा नित्यमाराधयेत् गुरुं दीर्घदण्डं नमस्कृत्य निर्लज्जो गुरुसन्निधौ शरीरमिन्द्रियं प्राणं सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् आत्मदारादिकं सर्वं सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् कृमिकीटभस्मविष्ठा दुर्गन्धिमलमूत्रकम् श्वेष्मरक्तं त्वचा मांसं वञ्चयेन्न वरार्णये संसारवृक्षमारूढा पतन्तो नरकार्णवे येन चैवोद्धृता सर्वे तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः एतवे जगतामेव संसारार्णवसेतवे प्रभवे सर्वविद्यानां शम्भवे गुरवे नमः अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः त्वं पिता त्वं च मे माता त्वं बन्धुस्त्वं च देवता संसारप्रतिबोधार्थं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यत्सत्येन जगत्सत्यं यत्प्रकाशेन भाति तत् यदानन्देन नन्दन्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य स्थित्या सत्यमिदं यद्भाति भानुरूपतः प्रियं पुत्रादि यत्प्रीत्या तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः येन चेतायते हीदं चित्तं चेतायते नयं जाग्रत्स्वप्नसुषुप्त्यादि तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य ज्ञानादिदं विश्वं न दृश्यं भिन्नभेदतः सदेकरूपरूपाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यस्य मतं तस्य मतं, मतं यस्य न वेदसः, अनन्यभावभावाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यस्य कारणरूपस्य कार्यरूपेण भाति यत्, कार्यकारणरूपाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नानारूपमिदं सर्वं न केनाप्यस्ति भिन्नता, कार्यकारणता चैव तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यदग्निकमलद्वन्द्वं द्वन्द्वतापनिवारकं, तारकं सर्वदा भक्त्या श्रीगुरुं प्रणमाम्यहम्। शिवे क्रुद्धे गुरुस्त्राता, गुरो क्रुद्धे शिवो नहि, तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन श्रीगुरुं शरणं व्रजे। वन्दे गुरुपदद्वन्द्वं वाङ्मनश्चित्तगोचरं, श्वेतरक्तप्रभाभिन्नं शिवशक्त्यात्मकं परम्। गोकारं च गुणातीतं, ऋकारं रूपवर्जितं, ऋकातीतस्वरूपं च यो दद्यात् स गुरुस्मृतः। आत्रिनेत्रा सर्वसाक्षी, अचतुर्बाहुरच्युतः, अचतुर्वदनो ब्रह्मा श्रीगुरुः कथितः प्रिये। अयं मयाञ्जलिर्बद्धो दयासागरवृत्तये, यदनुग्रहतो जन्तुश्चित्रसंसारमुक्तिभाक्। श्रीगुरो परमं रूपं विवेकचक्षुषोऽमृतं, मन्दभाग्या न पश्यन्ति अन्धा सूर्योदयं यथा। श्रीराचरणद्वन्द्वं यस्यां दिशि विराजते, तस्यै दिशे नमस्कुर्यात् भक्त्या प्रतिदिनं प्रिये। तस्यै दिशे सततमञ्जलिरेषाये, प्रक्षिप्यते मुखरितो मधुपैर्बुधैश्च। जागर्ति यत्र भगवान् गुरुचक्रवर्ती, विश्वोदयप्रलयनाटकनेत्रसाक्षी। श्रीनाथादिगुरुत्रयं गणपते, कीटात्रयं भैरवं, सिद्धौघं वटुकत्रयं पदयुगं, दुत्तिगमं मण्डलम्। वीरान्वष्टचतुष्टषष्टिनवकं, वीरावले पञ्चकं, श्रीमन्मालिनी मन्त्रराजचरितं, वन्दे गुरुमण्डलम्। अभ्यस्ते सकले सुदीर्घमण्डले, व्याधिप्रदे दुष्करे, प्राणायामशते गणेककरणे, दुःखात्मके दुर्जये। यस्मिन्नाभ्युदिते विनश्यति बले, वायु स्वयं तत्क्षणात्, प्राप्तुं तत्सहजं स्वभावमनिशम्। सेवाध्वमेकं गुरुम्। स्वदेशिकस्यैव शरीरचिन्तनं, भवेदनन्तस्य शिवस्य चिन्तनं। का कापि संसारवारिधे सेतुवन्दायते नाथं देशिकं तमुपास्महे यस्मादनुग्रहं लब्ध्वा महदज्ञानमुत्सृजे तस्मै श्रीदेशिकेन्द्राय नमश्चाभीष्टसिद्धये पादाभ्यं सर्वसंसार दावानलविनाशनं ब्रह्मरन्ध्रेसिकाम्भोज मध्यस्थं चन्द्रमण्डले अकटादिक्रिरेखाद्ये सहस्रदलमण्डले हंसमाश्वधिकोणे च स्मरे तन्मध्यगं गुरुम् सकलभुवनसृष्टिः कल्पिता शेषपुष्टिः निखिलनिगमदृष्टिः सम्पदां व्यर्थदृष्टिः अवगुणपरिमाष्टिः तत्पदार्थैकदृष्टिः भवगुणपरमेष्टिः मोक्षमार्गैकदृष्टिः सकलभुवनरङ्गा स्थापना संवयष्टिः सकरुणरसवेष्टिः तत्त्वमाया समष्टिः सकलसमयसृष्टिः सच्चिदानन्ददृष्टिः निवसतु मयि नित्यं श्रीगुरुर्दिव्यदृष्टिः अग्निशुद्धं समन्तात् ज्वालापवीक्षकाधिया मन्त्रराजमिमं मन्ये अहर्निशं पातु विद्युतः तद्यजति तन्नयजति तद्दूरे तत्समीपके तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य तदु सर्वस्य बाह्यतः अजोऽहमजोऽहं च अनादिनिधनः स्वयं अविकारश्चिदानन्द अणियान्महतो महान् अपूर्वाण परं नित्यं स्वयं ज्योतिर्निरामयम् विरजं परमाकाशं ध्रुवमानन्दमव्ययम् श्रुतिप्रत्यक्षमैत्रीयम् अनुमानश्चतुष्टयम् यस्य चात्मा तपो वेद देशिकं च सदा स्मरेत् मननं यद्भवं कार्यं तद्वदामि महामते साधुत्वं च मया दृष्टं त्वयि तिष्ठति साम्प्रतम् अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरम् सर्वश्रुतिशिरोरत्न विराजिता पदम्बुजा वेदान्ताम्बुजसूर्यो यः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण ज्ञानमुत्पद्यते स्वयं य एव सर्वसम्प्राप्तिः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः चैतन्यं शाश्वतं शान्तं व्योमातीतं निरञ्जनं नादबिन्दुकलातीतं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः स्थावरं जङ्गमं चैव तथा चैव चराचरं व्याप्तं येन जगत्सर्वं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः ज्ञानशक्ति समारूढा तत्त्वमालाविभूषितः भुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदाताय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः अनेकजन्मसम्प्राप्त सर्वकर्मविदाहिने आत्मज्ञानप्रभावेण तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः कृतं तपः तत्त्वं येन परं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मन्नाथ श्रीजगन्नाथो मद्गुरु श्रीजगद्गुरु ममात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ज्ञानमूलं गुरुर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलं गुरुपदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरुकृपा। गुरुरादिरनादिश्च गुरुपरमदैवतं गुरुपरतरं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सप्तसागरपर्यन्तं तीर्थस्नानादिकं फलं गुरुरङ्घ्रिपयोबिन्दु सहस्रांशेन दुर्लभम्। हरोस्ते गुरुस्त्राता गुरोरुस्तेन पश्चन तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन श्रीगुरुं शरणं व्रजे। गुरुमेव जगत्सर्वं ब्रह्म विष्णु शिवात्मकं गुरुपरतरं नास्ति तस्मात् सम्पूजयेत् गुरुं। ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं लभ्यते गुरुभक्तितः गुरुपरतरं नास्ति ध्येयोऽसौ गुरुमार्गिः। यस्मादनुत्तरं नास्ति नेति नेतीति वै श्रुतिः मनसा वचसा चैव नित्यमाराधयेत् गुरुम्। गुरुकृपाप्रसादेन ब्रह्म विष्णु सदाशिवा समर्था प्रभवादौ च केवलं गुरुसेवया। देवकिन्नरगन्धर्वाः पितरो यक्षचारणाः मुनयोऽपि न जानन्ति गुरुशुश्रूषणे विधिम्। महाहंकारगर्वेण तपो विद्याबलान्विताः संसारकुहरा वर्ते न मुक्ता देवगन्धर्वा पितरो यक्षकिन्नरा ऋषया सर्वसिद्धाश्च गुरुसेवा पराङ्मुखा। ज्ञानं शृणु महादेवी सर्वानन्दप्रदायकं सर्वसौख्यकरं नित्यं भुक्तिमुक्तिविदायकम्। श्रीमत्परब्रह्मगुरुं स्मरामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्मगुरुं वदामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्मगुरुं नमामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्मगुरुं भजामि। ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम्। एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वदि साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनं नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्ममहं। हृदम्बुजे कर्णिकमध्य संस्थे सिंहासने संस्थितदिव्यमूर्तिं ध्यायेत् गुरुं चन्द्रकलाप्रकाशं चित्पुस्तकाभीष्टवरं ददानं। श्वेताम्बरं श्वेतविलेपपुष्पं मुक्ताविभूषं मुदितं दिनेत्रं वामाङ्गपीठस्थितदेव्य ज्ञानस्वरूपं निजबोधयुक्तं योगीन्द्रमीड्यं वरोगवैद्यं श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि। यस्मिन् सृष्टिस्थितिध्वंसा निग्रहानुग्रहात्मकं कृत्यं पञ्चविधं शाश्वतं भासते तं नमाम्यहम्। प्रातः शिरसि शुक्लाब्जे द्विनेत्रं द्विभुजं गुरुं वराभययुतं शान्तं स्मरेतं नाम पूर्वकम्। न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं शिवशासनता 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 इदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं मम शासनतो मम शासनतो मम शासनतो मम शासनता। एवंविधं गुरुं ध्यात्वा ज्ञानमुत्पद्यते स्वयं तत्सद्गुरुप्रसादेन मुक्तोऽहमीति भावये। गुरुदर्शितमार्गेण मनःशुद्धिं तु कारयेत् अनित्यं खण्डयेत् सर्वं यत्किञ्चिदात्मगोचरम्। ज्ञेयं सर्वस्वरूपं च ज्ञानं च मनः उच्यते। ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं समं कुर्यात् नान्यपन्था द्वितीयकः। एवं श्रुत्वा महादेवी गुरुनिन्दां करोति यः स याति नरकं घोरं यावत् चन्द्रदिवाकरो। यावत् कल्पान्तको देहात् तावदेव गुरुं स्मरेत्। गुरुलोपो न कर्तव्यः स्वच्छन्दो यदि वा भवेत्। ओङ्कारेण न वक्तव्यं प्राज्ञै शिष्ये कथञ्चन। गुरुरत्वेन वक्तव्यम् असत्यं च कदाचन। गुरुं त्वां कृत्यहं कृत्य गुरुं निर्जित्य वादता। अरण्ये निर्जले देशे स भवेत् ब्रह्मराक्षसः। मुनिभिः पन्नगैर्वापि सुरैर्वा शापितो यदि कालमृत्यो भयाद्यापि गुरुरक्षति पार्वती। अशक्ता हि सुराध्यश्च अशक्ता मुनयस्तथा। गुरुशापेन ते शीघ्रं क्षयं यान्ति न संशयः। मन्त्रराजमिदं देवि गुरुरित्यक्षरद्वयम्। स्मृतिवेदार्थवाक्येन गुरु साक्षात् परं पदम्। श्रुतिस्मृति अविज्ञाय केवलं गुरुसेवका। के वै संन्यासिना प्रोक्ता इतरे वेषधारिणः। नित्यं ब्रह्म निराकारं निर्गुणं बोधयेत् परं। सर्वं ब्रह्म निराभासं दीपो दीपान्तरं यथा। गुरुकृपा प्रसादेन आत्मारामं निवीक्षये। अनेन गुरुमार्गेण स्वात्मज्ञानं प्रवर्तते। आब्रह्मस्तम्भपर्यन्तं परमात्मास्वरूपकं। स्थावरं जङ्गमं चैव प्रणमामि जगन्मया। वन्देऽहं सच्चिदानन्दं वेदातीतं सदा गुरुं नित्यं पूर्णं निराकारं निर्गुणं स्वात्मसंस्थितं परात्परतरं ध्येयं नित्यमानन्दकारकं हृदयाकाशमध्यस्थं शुद्धस्फटिकसंनिभं स्फटिकाप्रतिमारूपं दृश्यते दर्पणे यथा तथात्मनि चिदाकारम् आनन्दं सोऽहमित्युता अङ्गुष्ठमात्रपुरुषं ध्यायतश्चिन्मयं हृदि तत्र स्फुरति भावो यः शृणुतं कथयाम्यहम् अगोचरं तथा गम्यं नामरूपाविवर्जितं निःशब्दं तद्विजानीता यथा गन्धस्वभावेन कर्पूरकुसुमादिषु शीतोष्णादिस्वभावेन तथा ब्रह्म च शाश्वतम् स्वयं तथा बुद्धो भूत्वा स्थातव्यं यत्र कुत्रचित् कीटब्रह्मरवत् तत्र ध्यानं भवति तादृशम् गुरुध्यानं तथा कृत्वा स्वयं ब्रह्ममयो भवेत् पिण्डे पदे तथा रूपे मुक्तो सो नात्र संशयः श्रीपार्वती उवाच पिण्डं किं नो महादेव पदं किं समुदारितं रूपातीतं च रूपं किम् एतदाप्यादि शङ्कर श्रीमहादेव उवाच पिण्डं किं शक्ति पदं हंसामुदारितं रूपं बिन्दुरिति गेयं रूपातीतं पिण्डे मुक्ता पदे मुक्ता रूपे मुक्ता वरानने रूपातीते तु ये मुक्ता ते मुक्ता नात्र संशयः स्वयं सर्वमयो भूत्वा परं तत्त्वं विलोकयेत् परात् परतरं नान्यः सर्वमेतन्निरालयम् तस्यावलोकनं प्राप्य सर्वसङ्गविवर्जनम् एकाकी निःस्पृहा शान्ता इष्टासेतप्रसादता लब्धं वा धनलब्धं वा स्वल्पं वा बहुलं तथा निष्कामेनैव भोक्तव्यं सदा सन्तुष्टचेतसा सर्वज्ञपदमित्याहुर्देहि सर्वमयो बुधा सदानन्द सदा शान्तो रमते यत्र कुत्रचित् यत्रैव तिष्ठते सोऽपि सदेश पुण्यभाजनम् मुक्तस्य लक्षणं देवि तवाग्रे कथितं मया उपादेशस्तथा देवी गुरुदक्षिणमुक्तिदा अन्येन यद्भवेत् कार्यं तद्वदामि महामते लोकोपकारकं देवी लौकिकं तु न भावयेत् लौकिकात् कर्मणो यान्ति ज्ञानहीना भवार्णवम् ज्ञानी तु भावयेत् सर्वं कर्मनिष्कर्म यत्कृतम् इदं तु भक्तिभावेन पठते शृणुते यदि लिखित्वा तत्प्रदातव्यम् तत्सर्वं सफलं भवेत् गुरुगीतात्मकं देवे शुद्धतत्त्वं मयोदितम् अवव्याधिविनाशार्थं स्वयं सदा गुरुगीताक्षरैकं तु मन्त्रराजमिमं जपे अन्ये च विविधा मन्त्रा कलां धारन्ति षोडशी अनन्तफलमाप्नोति गुरुगीता जपेन तु सर्वपापप्रशमनं सर्वदारिद्र्यनाशनं कालमृत्युभयहरं सर्वसङ्कटनाशनं यक्षराक्षसभूतानां चोरव्याघ्रभयापहम् महाव्याधिहरं सर्वं विमुक्तिसिद्धिदं भवेत् अथवा मोहनं वश्यं स्वयम् एव जपेत् सदा वस्त्रासने च दारिद्र्यं पाषाणे रोगसम्भवः मेदिन्यां दुःखमाप्नोति काष्ठे भवति निष्फलम् कृष्णाजिने ज्ञानसिद्धे मोक्षश्रीव्याघ्रचर्मणि दुःशासने ज्ञानसिद्धि सर्वसिद्धिस्तु सम्भवे कुशैर्वा दुर्भया देवी आसने शुभ्रकम्बले उपविश्य ततो देवी जपेदेकाग्रमानसः ध्येयं शुक्लं च शान्त्यर्थं वश्ये रक्तासनं प्रिये अविचारे कृष्णवर्णं पीतवर्णं ददामि उत्तरे शान्तिकामस्तु वश्ये पूर्वमुखो जपे दक्षिणे मारणं प्रोक्तं पश्चिमे च नमः मोहनं सर्वभूतानां बन्धमोक्षकरं भवेत् देवराज्यप्रियकरं सर्वदुःखनाशं भवेत् सर्वेषां संवनकरं गुणानां च विवर्धनं दुष्कर्मनाशनं चैव सुकर्मसिद्धिदं भवेत् असिद्धं साधयेत् कार्यं नवग्रहभयापहं दुःस्वप्ननाशनं चैव सुस्वप्नफलदायकम् सर्वसन्तित्रयं नित्यं तथा वन्द्यं सुपुत्रम् अवैधव्यपरं श्रीणं सौभाग्यदायकं सदा आयुरारोग्यमैश्वर्यं पुत्रपौत्रप्रवर्धनम् अकामता स्त्रीविधवा जपान्मोक्षफलाप्नुयात् अवैधव्यं सकामास्तु लभते चान्यजन्मनि सर्वदुःखभयं विघ्नं नाशयेच्छापहारकम् सर्वबाधाप्रशमनं धर्मार्थकाममोक्षदम् यं यं चिन्तयते कामं तं तं प्राप्नोति निश्चितम् कामितस्य कामधेनु कल्पनाकल्पपादपः चिन्तामणिश्चिन्तितस्य सर्वमङ्गलकारकम् मोक्षहेतुर्जपे नित्यं मोक्षश्रीव्यक्तवाप्नया भोगकामो जपेद्यो वै तस्य कामफलप्रदम् जपेक्षाकश्च सौरश्च गाणपत्यश्च वैष्णवा शैवस्य सिद्धिदं देवी सत्यं सत्यं न संशयः अकर्तव्या जपे स्नानं कथयामि वरानने सागरे वा सहितीरे तवा हरिहरालये भक्तिदेवालये गोष्ठे सर्वदेवालये शुभे भटे स्थाने भयभूमौ तु वटमूलान्तिके तथा सिद्ध्यन्ति धौतरे मूले च्यूतवृक्षस्य संविधौ गुरुपुत्रो वरं मूर्खस्तस्य सिद्ध्यन्ति नान्यथा शुभकर्माणि सर्वाणि दीक्षाव्रता तथांसि च संसारमलनाशार्थं भवपाशनिवृत्तये गुरुगीताम्बसि स्नानं तत्त्वज्ञः कुरुते सदा स एव च गुरुः साक्षात् सदा सद्ब्रह्मवित्तमः तस्य स्थानानि सर्वाणि पवित्राणि न संशयः सर्वशुद्धः पवित्रोऽसौ स्वभावाद्यत्र तिष्ठति तत्र देवागणाः सर्वे क्षेत्रे पीठे वसन्ति आसनस्थ शयानो वा गच्छन् तिष्ठन् वदन्नपि अश्वारूढो गजारूढः सुप्तो जागृतोऽपि वा शुचिस्मस्य सदाध्यानि गुरुगीताजपेन तु तस्य दर्शनमात्रेण पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते समुद्रे च यथा तोयं क्षीरे क्षीरं घृते घृतम् भिन्ने कुम्भे यथाकाशं तथात्मा परमात्मनि तथैव ज्ञानी जीवात्मा परमात्मनि लीयते ऐक्येन रमते यत्र तत्र विभानिशम् एवं विदो महामुक्ता सर्वदा वर्तते बुधः तस्य सर्वप्रयत्नेन सर्वसन्देहरहितो मुक्तो भवति पार्वती भुक्तिमुक्तिद्वयं तस्य विभागे च सरस्वती अनेन प्रणिनः सर्वे गुरुगीताजपेन तु सत्यं सत्यं पुनः सत्यं धर्म्यं संज्ञं मयोदितं गुरुगीता समं नास्ति सत्यं सत्यं वरानने एको देव एकधर्मः एकनिष्ठा परं तपः गुरोपरातरं नास्ति नास्ति तत्त्वं गुरोपरम् माता धन्य पिता धन्यो धन्यो वंशाकुलं तथा धन्यो च वसुधा देवी गुरुभक्ति सुदुर्लभा शरीरम् इन्द्रियं प्राणश्चार्थ स्वजनबान्धवा माता पिता कुलं देवी गुरोरेव न संशयः आकल्पजन्मनां कोट्या जपा व्रता तपात्रिया तत्सर्वं सफलं देवी गुरुसन्तोषमात्रता विद्या तपो बलेनैव मन्दभाग्यस्य ये नरः गुरुसेवां न कुर्वन्ति सत्यं सत्यं वदामि ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेशाश्च देवर्षिकिन्नरा सिद्धशास्त्रयक्षाश्च अन्येऽपि मुनयो जनाः गुरुभावात्मकं कीर्तनम् अन्यतीर्थं निराकृतं सर्वतीर्थाश्रयो देवी पादपुष्पं वर्तते जपेन जयमाप्नोति चानन्तफलमाप्नुयात् येन कर्म त्यजन् सर्वं स्थानानि चाधमानि च जपं हीनासनं कुर्वन् हीनकर्म फलप्रदं गुरुगीतां प्रयाति कृतं मया सुगोप्यं च प्रयत्नेन मम त्वं च प्रियते स्वामी मुख्य गणेशादि विष्णुवादिनां च पार्वती मनसा वीरवत्तम्यं सत्यं सत्यं वदाम्यहम् अतीव पक्वचित्ताय श्रद्धा भक्तियुताय च प्रवक्तव्यमिदं देवी ममात्मासि सदा प्रिये अभक्ते वञ्चके धूर्ते पाखण्डे नास्तिके नरे मनसापि न वक्तव्या गुरुगीता कदाचन संसार सागर समुद्धरणैकमन्त्रं ब्रह्मादिदेवमुनिपूजितसिद्धमन्त्रं दारिद्र्यदुःखभवरोगविनाशमन्त्रं वन्दे महावैराग्यमन्त्रम् श्रीस्कन्दपुराणे उत्तरखण्डे ईश्वर पार्वती संवादे गुरुगीता समाप्ता श्रीगुरुदेव चरणार्पणमस्तु नित्यानन्दाय गुरवे संसारहारिणे भक्तकाये कदेहाय नमस्ते चित्तदात्मने निर्वासनं निराकाङ्क्षं सर्वदोषाविवर्जितं निर्वालम्बं निरातङ्कं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् निर्ममं निरहङ्कारं समादस्ताश्मकाञ्चनं समादुःखसुखं धीरं भवभूतं नमाम्यहम् अविनाशिनमात्मानम् एकं विज्ञाय तत्त्वतः वीतरागभयक्रोधं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् नाहं देहो न मे देहो जीवो नाहं अहमिति एवं विज्ञाय सन्तुष्टं भवभूतं नमाम्यहम् समस्तं कल्पनामात्रम् आत्मा मुक्ता सनातनः इति विज्ञाय संतृप्तं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं कामसङ्कल्पवर्जितं धियोपादेयहीनन्तम् स्वभावेनैव यो योगी सुखं भोगं न वाञ्छति यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् दैवनिन्दाप्रशंसाभ्यां यस्य विक्रियते मनः आत्मक्रीडं महात्मानम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् नित्यं जाग्रदवस्थायां स्वप्नवद्योऽवतिष्ठते निश्चिन्तं चिन्मयात्मानं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् द्वेषं नास्ति प्रियं नास्ति नास्ति यस्य शुभाशुभम् वेदज्ञानविहीनं तं अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् जडं पश्यति नो यस्सु जगत् पश्यति चिन्मयम् नित्ययुक्तं गुणातीतं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् योगिदर्शनमात्रेण भवते भुवनत्रयम् पावनं जङ्गमं तीर्थम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् सर्वपूज्यं सदा पूर्णं अखण्डानन्दविग्रहम् स्वप्रकाशं चिदानन्दं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् निष्कलं निष्क्रियं श्रियं शान्तं निर्मलं परमामृतं गणेशपुरीवासिनं अवधूतं नमाम्यहं योगपूर्णं तपोमूर्तिं प्रेमपूर्णं सुदर्शनं ज्ञानपूर्णं कृपामूर्तिं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहं दुर्जनः सज्जनो भूयात् सज्जनः शान्तिमाप्नुयात् शान्तो मुच्येत वन्देभ्यो मुक्तसंज्ञानिमोचयेत् स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्याय्येन मार्गेण मही महिषाः ब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं शोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् सर्वस्तरतु दुर्गाणि सर्वो भद्राणि पश्यतु सर्वकामानवाप्नोतु सर्वत्र नन्दतु स्वस्ति मातृका पितृभ्यो अस्तु स्वस्ति गुरुभ्यो जगते पुरुषेभ्यः विश्वं सुभूतं सुविधात्रं नो अस्तु जोगे वजुषेम सूर्यम् ॐ शान्ति 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 आरती करो सद्गुरु की करो सद्गुरु की करो आरती शरण तुम्हारे Jai नित्यमानन्दकन्दं नमामोऽयं मुक्तमानन्दकन्दं उमासागरं नित्यमानन्दकन्दं नमामोऽयं मुक्तमानन्दकन्दं उमासागरं काव्यशास्त्रं च सङ्गीतवाद्यादिकं केऽपितं योगयं शिक्षमाणा क्वचित् सर्वकालेषु कालेषु सत्तासमे नित्यमानन्दकन्दं नमामोऽयं मुक्तमानन्दकन्दं उमासागरम् कुर्वते स्वात्मनैवं शमं शान्तिदम् एवमादृत सर्वे सेवारता पीडनं चापि चेतो वियोगायते नित्यमानन्दकन्दं नमामोऽयं मुक्तमानन्दकन्दं उमासागरम् देववाणी पुनर्गौरवं प्राप्नुयात् वेदशास्त्राणि बोध पुनर्जायत विक्रमाकल्प्य नित्येश्वर प्रेरिता शान्तिपीठे स्थिता शेषविद्यालया Seshavidyalaya Nityamanandakandam Namahoyam Bhaktamanandakandam Dumasanam. Ashramam sevamana vare pushpakai chayaya varayantasya suryatapam padapasustita sadhanayam nirva shishayantasti dikshavatam sarvata Gatam sarvata nityamanandakandam namahoyam Bhaktamanandakandam namasadayam. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. Warm good morning on a cold morning. Welcome everyone to Satsang here on this 14th of May 2023 in Shanti Mandir, Walden. It is Mother's Day here in the US, so I'm sure many are having or thinking of having a meal with the mother or their mother. Fortunate are those who at least know their mother, are aware of their mother and who their mother is and what the role the mother has played in their lives. Because we hear many stories today of unfortunate children who were not able to know or meet or find out who their mother was for various reasons. And I think in various ancient traditions, the mother is worshipped as the Divine Mother. And in India, we have many forms of the Divine Mother that is worshipped, I'm sure, in every single state and possibly even every single city and town or village around India. So while we think of the physical mother, the Lalita begins, Om Shri Matre Namaha. I offer salutations to the Divine Mother. So for all those who are, who will be, who may be, who are thinking, and the many thoughts came to my mind, but then I thought maybe it's not the right time to discuss many of these things, as society is going through so many changes currently that I might get myself in trouble by saying the wrong thing or expressing the wrong thought. And a modern day person may think I am too orthodox or too lost in the past. But I, for one, feel fortunate to have had a good mother who gave a good raising, a good upbringing, and I feel grateful today that I'm able to be solid or stand on on two legs for that foundation that was laid in the early days of childhood. Vivek is currently running kosher camps. You'll have to meet him to understand what they are, for students, for teachers, and for parents, because that education has to be wholesome to create the society that we want to see as we go forward or as we go ahead. What they just sang were some verses from Siddhapitham, I think, a book that Acharya Jha put together when he lived at the ashram in Magod. He's no more. He passed away about 2 years ago. These were his inspired verses that came to him in the middle of the night. And then days would go by and he would say, nothing is happening, nothing is happening. And then he would wake up again and he would write. These were his experiences, his feelings, his thoughts of the 20-odd years that he lived at Shanti Mandir Magod as the resident Acharya, teaching Sanskrit and teaching many other things to whoever came along to him. Because he met Baba in 1968 from a northeastern town of Bareilly, where Prabal and all of them are from, and came to Baba and got initiated and stayed connected. And then when he retired and finished his worldly obligations, he came and stayed with us in Shanti Mandir Magod. He wrote a few different books, out of which this is one of, I think, his grandest book. And I just love the refrain, Nityamananda Kandam Namamo Vayam Muktamananda Kandam Numaha Sadaram. Vivek says that Kanda here is cloud, the cloud of Ananda, the cloud of bliss. And so offer salutations to Nityananda, to Muktananda, constantly, again and again, with great respect, offer salutations. So he talks about all that which happens in the Siddhapit, or in the place where a Siddha, a great sage, a great guru, resides. So far it's only in Sanskrit and Hindi meaning, I think. I'm sure over time when Vivek and Umesh Nagarkate find time, because it's a little complex in its own way, and so when they get up in the middle of the night, Umesh already does, and they'll translate into English. And Baba used to say there are two kinds of poets. One is a Vara Kavi and one is a Nara Kavi. Vara is one who is blessed by the divine, and that which flows through that being is the voice or the thought of the divine. And the other is whatever comes to one's own mind, and he or she writes that. So we have today with us Rainer and Christine Fryer, who've come from Germany after a long time, after post-COVID, I would say, and they're very happy to be here. And the best part was that Nirguna recognized them, who otherwise forgets everything very conveniently, as and when she wants to. So when they came, I took them, and she's like, "Oh my God, how did you get here?" You know, so they spoke, and she was very happy to have them. We have Delia from Mexico City, who keeps dropping in every so often whenever she finds the time in a busy schedule of silence that she keeps, I don't know if it's putting herself through, or because it's possibly the most amazing experience that different people have shared. We have a lady in Hawaii who does 40-day dark room meditations. And she said then coming out of it into this world of caca, the Spanish word. As Dhavalbhai yesterday shared a story with me that Kumbhakarna, brother of Ravana, used to sleep for 6 months and would wake up for 6 months. So one day Ravana woke him up and said, "Wake up." So Kumbhakarna said, "For what?" He said, "I have kidnapped Sita, Rama's wife, and we need to go to war." So Kumbhakarna said, "I think it's better I go back to sleep. I don't need to wake up for this." So, again, for details, you can see Dhavalbhai. He comes up with some of these wonderful thoughts, and we have a good laugh, because the conversation often is, we all come to Satsang, and from Satsang, we should go further along in our journey, move along. And somehow the kaka in each of our minds and emotions and thoughts and feelings and vasanas, as the scriptures tell us, keeps us caught. And to break out of that whole cycle is not so easy. But anyway, we'll hear now from Nitin. He's here with his Dutch wife, Janavi, I should say. Nitin is originally from Mumbai, but as he'll share with you in his story, he came to Ganeshpuri some 20 years ago, wondering what to do with life. So he took a break and went on to live somewhere near Vajreshwari, I think, and there he went to have Bhagwan's darshan. He was inspired, and he sent a report to me, and I found that today. So I thought, share that with you as he gathers himself and his thoughts. With much joy and deep gratitude, I share the Education at Your Doorstep report. As the project has completed 6 months of implementation at the end of December 2021, and is going on with small groups of children gathering in village homes and community settings. The attached document summarizes project information, narrates short anecdotes of how the children in the selected 10 villages have been responding to this form of active, joyful, participative education. So I'm pleased to share these anecdotes with you. Parents and village community members have felt much relief with this service, as they can see their children engaged in fruitful, constructive learning activity, while the public preschools and primary schools remain closed. This was during COVID. The project has made a sincere effort to offer the village community a solution to look beyond institutional dependence for basic primary education, and provided this alternative of empowering a village educated youth with quality education, imparting skills, so that education is freed from breaking down due to pandemics or other unforeseen reasons, and that it flourishes within the village community. Going forward, I'm keen to bring into this education model the elements of steadiness, evenness of mind, clarity of thought, speech, and action, with guided activities like meditation, pranayama, prayer, chanting, mindfulness, so that every child is gently led to feel and find a firm inner ground of the self. Our group of facilitating teachers who belong to the village community need to be drawn into these activities and guided, supported to develop these interpersonal skills, so they may be able to impart them to their students with ease and conviction. So in 6 months, 9 villages, 502 students. That's what they achieved, and I'm sure a lot more by now. So that in itself, you can just imagine, for those of you who are sitting at home and wondering what to do with my time, with my fears, come join us. We have 2 of Nitin's proteges or students, Poonam and Pramila. Poonam works at Shanti Mandir Nimbavali, helping Bhaskar with different tasks. She unfortunately became a widow with a 5-year-old daughter, I think, 6-year-old daughter. In August, the husband just died, and she came back to Ganeshpuri to be with her parents. Father, I think, is alcoholic, so she decided to live with her parents, take care of them, take care of the daughter. And because I knew the father since childhood from Baba's days, he brought his daughter and said, "Here's my daughter, here's a child, do something." And it was only later I found out that she had studied with Nitin way back in 2005. And so we offered her a job. Nitin helped get the daughter into school and even paid for 6 months of fees and books and so on and so forth. She's happily settled in the ashram. I won't say there are no issues, because that would be not correct to say that. But in what all we are doing, hopefully in all of this, what Nitin said, in offering guidance and offering counseling, which is what Pramila is doing. She's a young girl whose mother is only this tall. I think not even 5 feet, less than 5. So Devyani can feel tall. And I've known her again from Baba's days. She used to sell flowers across the gate of Gurudev Siddhapeeth. So I've known her from that long back. And so I've known her daughter over the years as she grew up. The daughter ran computer classes with her brother, tried to do a lot for her like or her type of people. Somewhere along the way she met Nitin, she educated herself, she got herself up. So when we started Shanti Mandir Nimbavali some months ago, she came and she said, "I want to work with Shanti Mandir. I want to do something. I want to offer career counseling. I want to offer guidance. I want to tell these children there's more to life than just imitating the person in front of you." So I was like, okay, fine. She said, "You want to know what I will do?" I said, "No, I don't want to know what you will do, because that's your job." And I said, "Nitin's there, you are there." I said, "Just do, and I'm sure over time we'll see the fruits or reap the fruits of what you will do." So we have music classes that take place every Saturday and Sunday at Shanti Mandir Nimbavali. We started that some years ago, stopped in COVID, restarted. And we get 60 to 70 students now who come every Saturday and Sunday to learn harmonium, to learn Dolak. I think Govind lived there at one time. Prabal lived there at one time when we didn't have an ashram. We just had a space. And so all of these people have put in their time, put in creating what we have today. So Pramila and Bhaskar and all of them, I think in about 2 weeks we'll have a camp for 3 days. And they had to stop taking reservations because they are registrations because there are over 100 children. And so logistics and teaching assistants they need. And so I saw they've put out a little thing on Facebook that anyone who wants to come, help us, support us, do this, you are welcome. So all of this is a lot that needs to happen in the space that belongs to Bhagwan Nityananda, Baba Muktananda, the Vajreshwari Devi, Bhadrakali, Gav Devi. There's many temples, many people from all around the world who come. And but just coming and going, I think, is not enough. And coming and going and just picking up one isolated person also doesn't help. We need to come together as a community, as a group of people, as uplifting thinkers, and I think create something wonderful in that space. So we'll now hear from Nitin, his version of the story. Of course, this also was what he had written to me a couple of years ago. And Janavi, I think, has been a good support in helping him organize, because we as Indians sometimes, like, we live in what we call Ram Bharose. We trust the Almighty that it will happen, it is going to happen. But sometimes I often tell everybody, Florian, who's from Germany, always says, we must have a plan. He was, what is the plan? What is the plan for today? You cannot go without a plan. And his plan, of course, revolves around food, and satsang in the temple. Those are two important things. But he would always say, we must have a plan. So I often think of him, and I think of that You cannot just go and say whatever. There must be a plan. So we invite Nitin to come forward and share his thoughts. Any questions you have, you're welcome to meet him, see him afterwards, and he will share with you what all he does. And there's another group, I think it's Janetta, and she has a wonderful lady named Mohini Rao, who's also doing a lot with the tribal women in that area. So we welcome Nitin, share his thoughts. Sadhgurunath Maharaj ki jai.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sadashivaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. This mantra from our daily scriptural reading from Vishnu Sahasranam offers humble respect and total surrender to Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva and to the saints Bhagwan Nityananda and Baba Muktananda. To begin this little talk, I offer my salutations to Jagat Guru Avdut Bhagwan Sri Nityananda, salutations to the great yogi of all times, Paramhamsa Baba Muktanand, and salutations to our beloved Guru, Sri Gurudev Swami Nityananda, who embodies the grace and the magnanimity of Avadut Bhagwan and Baba Muktananda. Gurudev said it's Mother's Day, so congratulations and best wishes to all the mothers here and everywhere. You know, the world is because you are there, and the world moves because you make the efforts for the world to move. So, I think in India, traditionally we celebrate the mother. We know that the mother is the first guru in our lives. And, in one of our scriptural chanting, we say, Sadguru Maze Ai. So the Sadguru is also the mother. So, congratulations to all mothers. Thank you, Devyani and Gurudev, for inviting me and my wife Janvi here to this beautiful ashram, and for inviting me to this moment before us to speak about the education project named Learning Space, inspired and led by Bhagwan to support children, youth, women, and the rural community in and around Ganeshpuri. Standing here by Gurudev's side and facing many of Baba's close devotees from the West, I feel like a little toddler who is narrating to his visiting aunts and uncles an incident he experienced at his kindergarten school, and breathing with nervous excitement. The story of Learning Space, is one of a divine coincidence, at least to my mind. A young man from Mumbai who never felt at home in the city since childhood was longing for a quiet place in nature at the turn of the millennium. This was, when, I remember at the turn, around 2000, everybody was like, are the computers going to work, there's going to be a glitch and all computers will stop because there is no 2000 happening, it was all 1990 and so on. So I remember at the turn of the millennium, just like we experienced today, there was so much change that was, happening. And I was going through my own thing, and I had that, I really need, a sabbatical, a quiet place in nature to, really find myself. And, he had always been longing for something, longing for peace within. And to find that peace, he had traveled earlier to many pilgrimage places in North India, especially in the Himalayas. And it is this longing that led him to an old farmhouse by the Tansa river that flows by the villages of Ganeshpuri and Vajreshwari on the outskirts of Mumbai. Now he reached this farmhouse by the riverside, and once he settled at the quiet place, one day he decided to take a leisurely walk to Ganeshpuri, which was about 4 or 5 kilometers away from this farmhouse in the riverside. And he had heard of the great Saint Nityananda. He also had a chance earlier as a boy to come to Ganeshpuri, with his parents. Mumbai is not very far away, it's just a 2 hours drive. So he had been to Ganeshpuri and as a little child felt something. But this time he, was there again, and he was, walking to the Samadhi temple of the great Saint Bhagwan Nityananda. And just as he stood at the temple of the great saint, something happened. He entered the beautiful, magnificent space of the temple and felt a strange feeling overcoming him, a deep sense of homecoming. He walked ahead into the temple and sat down close to the feet of Bhagwan. He closed his eyes and realized then that he had never felt this feeling of being home ever before in his life. In a moment, when he opened his eyes, he realized that his longing that he had felt for so many years, longing for this and longing for that, actually, it was a longing for belonging. So he was actually now experiencing belonging, and the longing was going away. He knew there and then that he belonged to Bhagwan and to Ganeshpuri. Later, walking back to the farmhouse, his mind kicked in and he thought, but what am I going to do in a village? Typical, the logical mind always, gets in and takes away something from us and then we have to get back. So some days passed by at the farmhouse, and the young man used to sit at the riverside and enjoy writing a poem or a thought down in his notebook. He would watch some children playing at a distance from him in the evening and be delighted in their childlike fun. Then some children noticed him and came up to him shyly and were, hovering around. So he tried to make conversation with them. They were all the village children from around. He invited them to sit around so he could tell them a story. Soon other children playing at a distance joined him too, and he told them the story of Pinocchio. We've all heard that. The boy that was chiseled from a log of wood by a carpenter, and then the boy has a long nose and it grows longer and so on. And the story is all about the benefits of being truthful. And the children were all listening to this story and they enjoyed the story. And he invited them to come again the next day so he could tell them another story. And this too happened, and soon there were 20 plus children sitting around him with their eyes and ears glued to him, and this was happening every evening. He urged them to also bring their homework to this open-air gathering so he could help them with, learning some English and math and so on. And so 2 months passed by, and the young man returned to the city with 2 gifts he received during his time at the riverside. One, the gift of belonging to Ganeshpuri and to Bhagwan. And second, the amazing time he spent with children, telling them stories and helping them with homework. 2.5 years later, in December 2004, the young man, named Nitin, as you may have guessed by now, entered Ganesh Puri with the two gifts he had received in that space, to set up home and to be with the children in a purposeful way. Then in April 2005, after having visited many schools in the vicinity and volunteered as a teacher, he chanced on an amazing opportunity, another gift from Bhagwan. An assignment was entrusted to him by a couple from the West who happened to run a social welfare organization in Ganeshpuri. It was called Friends of Adivasis. Adivasis are the native people, in the community all around that place. They wanted him to engage with many teenagers, from around the place. They were actually sponsoring some of the families, and they thought it was a great idea that this man could engage with them and, teach them something, motivate them, build their confidence and so on, and a positive outlook. So the vacation program happens in, right now we're looking at vacation programs at Shanti Mandir. So this is the time, April, May, when the children have finished their final exams and they're into, like a nice couple of months or a month and a half as vacation. We just don't waste it away, We say, okay, what can we do in the vacation? So we paint, we, play music, and we do different kinds of things. And, this was one of those kind of vacation programs. And it did really well for those young participants, because some of them, really started looking at life in a different way. They were perceiving the bigger world out there, because the vacation program somehow gave them a window, to look out of their little village and say, oh, this whole world can belong to me, actually, Why do I need to just look at the village? I have the whole world before me. So that was what the vacation program did. And then, they had that, we'd like to support you to start something in Ganesh Puri, because he had mentioned a couple of times to them that, we can do something, that is useful in Ganesh Puri. And they were all around him and jumping with enthusiasm. So now, as you all may remember back in the story, that this was one of the two blessings, gifts that this young man had received during his sabbatical, that I can do something purposeful for children. So soon, on the 15th of August 2005, amidst fire ceremonies and chanting of Brahmin priests from the Samadhi temple, learning space came into existence, and we had written down that we're going to impart holistic creative learning to primary school children before and after their formal school time, involving English alphabet learning, numbers, painting, music, dance, drama, and so on. Just let's really give them everything we can, kind of that was the manifesto. And somehow, the community around received this concept very well, in and around Ganesh Puri. It was just, children from Vajreshwari and Akloli. These are all the neighboring villages. And soon, by the end of that year, it was 2005 year end, and hundreds of little children thronged to that little tiny space, just as Gurudev mentioned now, hundreds of children wanting to come. This was experienced in 2005, and I had a little 15 by 10 space, in Gandhipada, Ganesh Puri, and children were thronging to it. They were standing around in windows and everywhere and wanting to be somehow getting a little place to sit down. And Nitin again sat at Bhagwan's feet at the Samadhi temple and asked for blessings to say, okay, where does this go from here? There are all of these little children coming in big numbers. I've got a little small room to offer. And so he sat at Bhagwan's feet, and more things happened. And all the different modules and all of those things that were coming up, they went into the school at Ganeshpuri. There was a formal primary school. So, this was the next step where what we had discovered as a great way to, engage with children was going into the formal school. Because formal schools, are formal schools. They like to just, write on the blackboard. It's rote learning. And for the first time, the primary school of Ganeshpuri was looking at something new. And unknowingly then, Nitin had been able to settle an old score. He had never enjoyed school in the city. And he had always thought as a boy that school had to be more fun, more activity than sitting in a closed classroom and staring at a blackboard. Because that was what school was. And now Bhagwan had inspired and led this form of creative learning for children of Ganeshpuri. But mind you, it was not all fun and easy for Nitin to set up and run a 6 days a week program for children, because in the initial years, he was filled with doubts and fears of finding sufficient money to run this, fund this free of cost, all the sessions, making choices of subjects and methods for children's learning. And with the many young people wanting to come in and join as teachers, they brought their ideas, they had a certain mindset. So he always had all of these doubts and fears. And then Bhagwan would dispel his doubts and fears, because he would go and sit at Bhagwan's feet and say, what do I do next? What do I do next? And when he surrendered his mind completely to Bhagwan's grace, the doubts vanished. The fears were not there anymore. As we sing, we just now sang in Sadguru ki Aarti, Jab se sharan tumhari aaye, amrit se meethe phal paaye. We just now sang that. And seeking refuge in the Guru's shelter and enjoying the sweet fruit under it. That is the experience of being with the Guru and sitting at his feet. And then, the fruit is like just so amazing. And then we again sang in the same arti, Samshaya mita viveka karaya, bhavasagar se par lagaya. Samshaya, in other words, samshaya is the doubts and the fears, that we all go through. Is this right? Do I need to do this? Am I doing it correctly? This and that. And it's a constant thing going on in our minds. And the Bhavasagar, for me, the Bhavasagar then was the continuous flow of mental churning and confusion and identification. Somehow it holds us back from doing what is most necessary to be done. It's just there right before us, but the mind is just swirling and taking us away from something very simple, that we just need to connect with the moment and do what is necessary to be done. So by the year 2010, the creative learning methods and modules that had emerged at Learning Space were now going out to many, public schools, primary schools, because we had now by this time approached the district, and they said, oh, lovely, great ideas, and come. So they went into teachers training programs, and it was really going out there as an outreach program. It was no longer just restricted to one place or one village. They were just going out in hundreds of schools through teachers training. And this dispensation process went through not without its share of resistance to change, as some of the older local teachers believed that learning and fun are at two opposite ends. They can't come together. They said either you can learn or you can have fun. And they said, how can learning and fun be together? Because in India, it was always like, you've had enough fun now. Now come learn something. Or, I've been learning and learning. Now I want to have some fun. And we were saying that learning and fun can come together. It's all one process. So in the same year, Learning Space's location moved. We were right in the middle of Ganeshpuri as you walk towards the Samadhi temple. But we moved 3 kilometers inward to a more interior spot at the end of a village named Gorad. and facing the Mandagini hill, where Nitin had found a piece of land that had no use for anyone, just a piece of land lying, a big pit and lots of rainwater gathering there. And I said, wow, this seems to be in the middle of nowhere, but all the native settlements around. So why don't I do something with this piece? Because, it's just lying there. But while I was, trying to build something there, everybody stopped and made fun of me and said, didn't you find anything better? This is no good actually. But somehow for me, I thought, oh, it's just in the middle of all this native settlement, and all the children could come and benefit, from this supplementary learning. So in that decade that followed after 2010, Learning Space went on to a broader base of supporting rural education in multiple ways. Because in order to transform rural education, somebody had to be on the ground, visiting schools, identifying the urgent needs of the children in schools, find the funds, also make sure that the funds were efficiently mobilized, in a way that these resources are little, and the causes are big. So all the funds had to be very efficiently mobilized to deliver a good quality of education. And here was one of the causes right before him. What was happening was little children who had experienced a holistic, creative, supplementary learning were now growing up and out of high schools and aspiring to be in college, new for Ganesh Puri and all the things around actually, because the children always did school and got into something or the other. And now, they were aspiring to be in college and wanted to do university courses. Where does the money come from? The poor the parents working as farmers in the place. So Nitin started to meet with affluent people in Mumbai to build a database of prospective sponsors. And he also started making associations with organizations who had already developed scholarship schemes for bright students. Bhagwan was always showing him the way around supporting these basic needs of children and the community. But Bhagwan was also putting more causes right before him at the same time. So more and more causes came right in front. As we thought we had solved one set of things, there was right another in our face. And in 2015, when Nitin was visiting a remotely located high school to meet with the school's principal, he saw two girls leaving the school at noon time and wondered why so. He stopped his vehicle and asked them where were they going in the middle of the day. One girl replied and said that the other one was not feeling well and that she was being supported by her to reach home, which was about 4 or 5 kilometers away. Later in that school, some prodding helped him to understand that the girl was actually in her premenstrual state and experiencing headache and cramps. When Nitin looked around in the school premises for a sanitation facility, there was none for girls. Soon he ran a survey to delve into the absence of adolescent girls from school during their premenstrual and menstrual cycles. And he found that, on an average, an adolescent rural girl lost a month and a half of schooling time in one curriculum year, just not able to come to school, because of her mental anxiety and discomfort. It was very evident to Nitin that these public schools were not girl-friendly. So planning, designing, and implementing an appropriate sanitation facility in village schools was much needed. And he got, designers, architects together and said, come, let's find a solution for this, because every school needs something that is just right and appropriate for all the girls to come and feel comfortable in a day-long school which runs for a good 6-8 hours. And there is no sanitation. So, people came together and we designed something, and it was a beautiful plan, but, nobody was really wanting to fund it because they said, oh, that's a lot of money, and, how many schools do you want to do it? Oh, that looks like a big deal of money here and all that. And it just, a few years passed by, And the design and plan of this girls' sanitation just sat on a shelf with no buyers coming. Then one day in 2017, look at Bhagwan's Leela. One day in 2017, Nitin was invited to present this plan of an education seminar, at an education seminar in the district. And someone was sitting and very keenly, intently listening to him as he presented this girls' sanitation idea. And it happened to be a director of an insurance company in India, and he appreciated the idea and invited Nitin to his office the next day. And suddenly the time had come to put in this beautiful safe space sanitation concept in village schools. In 3 years' time, by the turn of 2020, nearly 25 middle level and high schools with a large number of adolescent village girl students had been equipped with a permanently constructed 250 square feet, little building, a little structure with all the basic amenities that a girl would need at school. There was a toilet bathroom, there were beds to lie down on, a changing room with mirror, a small book library, drinking water, sanitary pads, a set of uniforms to change and so forth, all under one sturdy roof. The COVID lockdown has been very hard on the village folk in India, especially on those people who depended on daily wages. You go out there, you work, you earn, you come back, you feed your family. And the COVID lockdown, as we all know, was indefinite. And it was very hard. So Gurudev, through Shanti Mandir and at Learning Space, we did our best. We distributed little packets of provisions and all that. We went out, made lists, and we were doing all that. The only silver lining, as I see it, to such a catastrophic time was the hundreds of educated village youth that returned to their villages, and with the realization that their occupation and livelihood had to be sustainable. They were all out there in cities of Mumbai and elsewhere, and they had to all come back to their villages because the COVID just sent people back to where they belonged. And now there was once again a new thinking that how can we have a livelihood and an occupation that is sustainable? Many educated young who had earlier thought they had no need to be in their villages and had migrated to the cities for better paying jobs were once again ready to go back to farming on their own lands or take up small enterprises within the village to serve their communities and make a livelihood from them. And I believe that this is a good juncture for Ganeshpuri and its neighboring villages. And as in other rural parts of India, where sustenance no longer necessarily means leaving one's families, communities, villages, small towns, and going somewhere else to make a living. It needs to come around where you are, which means, the whole effort now is to build these opportunities where you have all these educated young people, so that they can serve their own communities. This is, to my belief, this is what is rural development. If there are no young people left in the villages, what rural development will ever happen? And India will remain as it is. There'll only be lots of technology in cities and smart cities and so on, but the India being 65-70% rural will remain in that same way as 50 or 100 years back. So, I think these are some of the sustainable solutions that we are really local livelihood solutions that will foster physical and mental well-being for all. And we can all be part of them. With the faith and trust that we would be able to bring much transformation with Gurudev's vision and presence in Ganeshpuri, let us really look forward to a glorious, prosperous, peaceful and fulfilling time in Bhagwan's lap and in his vortex of energy. I would like all of us to, say this prayer. We all say it regularly, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya. So let us just fold hands, and say this prayer together. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhave. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. Thank you.
So many thanks to Nitin for his wonderful words. And I remember a satsang we had at his place, I think 2 years ago. And all of the local officials showed up. So I thought, okay, Nitin is doing something right. Because otherwise the officials don't show up. So we heard now all that which he has done there. And a lot of the principals also of different schools came to the program that morning. Of course, all of the children were there, a lot of the parents. And so it was wonderful gathering that morning to have satsang in that local village area. And we pray, because I also ask why I'm there in Shanti Mandir Nimbavali after 37 years. So we figured, okay, the Guru has a vision, the Guru has an idea. There's already people like Nitin doing a lot of work. And there's a lot of devotees around the world scattered from Bhagwan Nityananda, from Baba Muktananda. And so my prayer is that we all come together, maybe just sit in the temple. And I remember my day, it was 1986 in the month of August. And I also wondered, what do I do? Where do I go? What next? So my parents and I, we drove to Ganeshpuri and I just sat there in Bhagwan's shrine singing Arati Karu. And my father said, I'll see you in a bit. My mother sat on the women's side, and so many years later we have Shanti Mandir and all that which we do. So Devyani, before she left, told me, make sure Nitin speaks while he's here. So Nitin has spoken, and you have heard. And so we invite you to participate, and each one of us has this potential in us. I feel that the divine always inspires us. We get scared. We feel limited. We think, oh my God, who's going to do it? But I think the first question to ask ourselves is, who am I to think that I'm even doing it? So have a plan. Think to yourself, what is it that you want to do in life, with life? Don't just while away time. It's going to get the better of you one day, and that's going to happen. So at least I always think that when the messenger of death is at your doorstep to take you, at least when you review your life, you can think to yourself, what all have I done? And the benefits of that, the punya of that, which will go with us. So since we are somewhere in Ganeshpuri in our minds, I thought we chant today. The chants they do in Ganeshpuri is rather complicated. You have to come there in the end of June, beginning of July, and experience the 8-day dancing chant that they have for the occasion of Guru Purnima. And then again, a 24-hour chant for Punyatithi. And it's a free-for-all. There's no harmonium, there's just a drum, cymbals, probably 80-year-old people who've been doing the sapta since Bhagwan's time, who keep telling me, young have to come, young have to come, young have to come. Because we come every sapta, we chant, we keep this tradition going. But we need the young people to come and keep this going, take care of the lamp, take care of all of the little details that make it happen, that keep it going. So There they sing Bhagavate, Gurudeva, Paramananda, Satguru, Jagadguru, Parabrahma, Harihara, Avaduta, Digambara, Jnanadata, Annadata, Vishwanatha, Jagannatha, Shiva, Shiva, Krishna, Krishna, Ram, Ram, Bhimeshwara, Vishweshwara. It's like Om Namo Dina Bandhu Nitya. And so you have to really listen to what he's singing, because you can always say Bhagavate or Gurudeva, which is the simple version that I have chosen. So, but they get excited of whatever it is that has happened in their life through the blessing of Bhagwan Nityananda, and that's what they sing and chant. And some of them who chant actually are so beautiful. One of them is a hotelier from Mumbai who takes out some 12 hours and comes there and chants all night, takes a bath in the kund and goes back to his work the next morning. And to hear him just, he's sometimes got his hands up, he's got the symbol up, and you can just see for a moment that he's immersed and lost in that experience. And so we invited him to Magod a couple of times too, and he said, I can only come at night because I have to do my work in the daytime. And so I'm like, it's okay, you can just come when you can and just sing. So we'll also do that for the next few moments. Ours will be Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya and then Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. So it's 2 lines together. We'll do it in call and response. And then I've asked Larry to share a few thoughts on auspiciousness. Right? So we'll chant, which is auspicious, and then Larry will explain to us why it's auspicious. So join along, sing along, and we'll chant. Of course, India is very hot right now. For all of you, it's 45 Celsius, which is 115 Fahrenheit. So any of us complaining about the 50-degree weather this morning, we should just feel happy that we can bundle up and just go, wow. That's why I said good warm morning on a cold morning. So there they are melting away, and they just sent me a message, need fans in the hall before the... because we don't have fans in our temple hall yet, because I said it's okay because we have plenty of open space, the air is blowing through. So we look forward to this retreat or 3-day workshop that will take place. And again, especially those from around India who are already in the 115-degree weather, because if we go from here, we'll just lie for those 3 days saying, oh my heart. Get a headache. I know. All these things we can already imagine that will happen if I go into the heat. So we'll begin with the Kirtan for a few moments, and then we'll listen to Larry. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva 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 Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Nityanandaya. Om Namo Gurudeva Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Om Namo Nityanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki. Now invite me.
Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. You may be wondering why speak on auspiciousness. There's a little backstory where a few of us have run into a situation where the word auspicious arose. And in the context that we were, in the environment that we were in, a person or people reacted with a questioning response. I had an experience where I mentioned, we were talking about something, I think it was even with a client, and I said, well, that sounds very auspicious. Silence. And the client sort of went, auspicious? I don't think I've ever heard that word. What does that mean? And given our context, in this tradition, in this yoga, I mean, every other word it is sometimes auspicious. Oh, what an auspicious day. You know, we're having satsang and the sun is shining and it's not 115 degrees. How auspicious. So Gurudev and I were musing about that, and he said, yeah, you should say something about that in satsang. And look at what does it mean, for one, and what is its relevance in our tradition, and why do we use it so much, and just share. And I think we know, as we're studying Spanda, the Spandakarikas, and all of that, the divine pulsation, that words have that pulsation, and they have, in the tradition of Kashmir Shaivism, an incredibly important role to play. Interesting enough, as people have been mentioning Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day, that words and sound are matrika, and matra is the mother. And it is the mother, depending on how you look at it, as the one who can limit us if we don't understand. And that's what matra is, the ununderstood mother of sound. So if we don't understand it, and if we use it in a contracting way, we are bound. And this is the path we're on, is a path of freedom. So we don't want to be bound. We don't want to go there. But words, thoughts will lead us there if we don't understand. And at the same time, and here's the paradox and the contradiction and whatever you want to call it, if we understand the power of sound and words, they can free us. We've just spent the last hour and a half making sounds, chanting. And we are very blessed that we have a language which has been designed to free us, because in the Sanskrit language, and I'm no expert in that, but in the Sanskrit language, we know that the sounds of the Sanskrit language are not only a symbol of something, they are that something. Not just a symbol, but they are that something. So even as we are chanting perhaps something we don't know the meaning of in English, the sound is reverberating within us. And this is why Gurudev is always saying, just come, chant, be in that atmosphere, and you will get the benefit of that. I mean, it's a mysterious, magical thing. So the ancients knew this. The ancients knew this ahead of our modern world. They knew things like auspicious has a profound meaning, even if we don't understand what it is. And if we look at it from our Western point of view, you know, clearly there are things like, it's related to propitious, for example, showing or suggesting that future success is likely. That was embedded in Nitin's story. Future success is likely. He would sit at the feet of Bhagavan Nityananda and just be there in that space, and would sometimes leave with the sense that it's going to happen, it's going to be okay. Or as that one of the definitions is, showing or suggesting that future success is likely, auspicious. And there's even a little bit of, if we go back to the Roman times, coming from the word aspect, it says there, to look at. And it's actually related to birds. In Roman times, they had bird seers. They were like priests who would follow the signs of the birds' patterns of movements and their feeding patterns. And they could tell from that whether the times were auspicious to do X, Y, Z, Z, whatever. And from the astrological point of view, I'm told, the bird is indicative of the sun. Light, in other words. So they look to the light to see if the times or things are auspicious. So they're looking for the right combination with the birds of favorable behavior and conditions and timing. So the underpinning of all of this, I think, as we're looking at it and thinking of it from the point of view of matrika, the sound, the words, is that if we use the right words, if we connect with, if we listen to, if we chant, if we recite, it's leading us on the path that we want to be on. But a lot of our particular Western type of words, and particularly the times that we're in, we find that there's a lot of words that are taking us down the path that we don't want to go down. And we have to be so aware and conscious of that kind of matrika. Do we want to follow that? Dana shared with me this morning, it's like, oh, I was looking through that and I noticed there's another word that's slightly related or sounds like it, and it's suspicious as opposed to auspicious. And I just thought, what about that? And there's just that first syllable, rather than us, is sus. Who knows the meaning of sus from the Latin? Pig. Pig. Not a good kind of association for the most part that we want to have. And so, suspicious, doubtful, unlikely, not auspicious. And yet in our world today, we know with children, they run in circles and they'll say things like, I was with this person, or I was in this place, and very suspicious. And in fact, they've shortened it, and they'll just say, oh yeah, he was sus. And everybody gets the point. Not good. So we look at these words, and words have an enormous power. And the path that we're on is wanting to use words and language in the most powerful way. And Gurudev is always saying, the way you interact with people, yeah, we can call ourselves spiritual people. We sit, we meditate, we chant, we do those things, and that's all wonderful. But what do we do with that? And how do we communicate that? And it doesn't have to be that we have to go out and convert or tell other people, you've got to chant the Guru Gita. But what is our communication? What words do we use? Because our thoughts are a subtler form of spoken word. And then what are the words? Are they sweet and soft and uplifting? I don't know if you noticed that a lot of the words that Nitin was using, they're words that are not, well, you don't hear them at the mall, sitting at the feet of the Guru. I was sitting and I was thinking, what were people who had no understanding? So I had a question and I was thinking. So I went and I sat at the feet of the Guru, of Bhagavan. Now, what is sitting at the feet of someone? What is that conveying? We understand, and we know the significance of that. But even for us, it's important to get what does the feet of the Guru represent? Because there's a representation there. It is the knowledge, it is the foundation. And he was talking a bit about that too. What is the foundation? Not just of a physical foundation, but of wisdom and understanding. And we want to go to that place when we need to work out a plan, for example, to get the plan, And so all of those kinds of ways of using words, and we think, we speak, and then we act. And it's all spanda, versions of it. It's all, whether it's icha, will, whether it's jnana, knowledge, or whether it's kriya, action. All of this is embedded and woven together. And so mostly we want to be thinking auspicious thoughts and acting in ways that align with that. And when we communicate with others, we want the communication to be uplifting. Like I just know that in certain places, if you even use that word uplifting, people would say, what does that actually mean? And yet, again, it's the language we use regularly. And it's fantastic language. But we have to find ways of using language like that consistently, both within ourselves, but also in a way that we communicate and act with others. So there's always a way of communicating what we are about and want to experience in the world. And if we're going to do those things that Gurudev's talking about, what are we going to do? Then we have to find a way of communicating what are we going to do in an uplifting way as well, so that people say, I like that. I like that. And clearly that's what Nitin did. And so people came. It wasn't an immediate, but he stayed with it, and people came, and they sat, and they wound up doing something that is uplifting. And it's become very auspicious, it seems, the kinds of things that are happening. So those are just some thoughts. Sagurnath Maharaj Ki Jai. Sorry? That was delicious about auspicious. Okay.
Thank you, Larry. We have a whiteboard here. I think as Vivek gets ideas, he's going to write some words that represent auspicious or along those lines. But he'll have to write in English, not in Sanskrit. Because we've been talking over for the last couple of days, and how actually in India, when we learn to speak, we are taught that we must always begin with a Mangalacharan. Mangal, again, is auspiciousness, and so to sing some verses in praise of divinity. The Upanishads begin with a Shanti part, a prayer of peace. So the Om Sahana Vavatu mantra we sing is that. And if you actually Google, you'll find a lot of these words. There's more words than which will become difficult to explain into English. For example, he's put the word swasti, and in the Western world, especially because of Hitler, swastik, it's got a K in Sanskrit, but they have made it swastika. Vivek shared with me some time back an article that's written by a professor, I guess, explaining about, I think it's a bent cross or something. It's Heiler Camp or something. It's a word, I think, in German. And that, because he was from Austria, and the swastik, which many of you know, is like two Z's or Z's put in a different way. And you'll find a lot of the Christian traditions use that in the way that India has it. You'll find it on their clothes, you'll find it on their shrines. But somehow, for whatever reason, Hitler got it in his mind to use that symbol, which in India is used to show auspiciousness. Whenever we have a positive activity that we will perform, the words we use are Shri. Shri shows abundance. Shri represents Lakshmi. And the priest will also draw a swastik. And swastik, which the top part goes right, down, and then to the left, and then from top the other way. And so, yeah. So oftentimes the negative people use it the opposite way. But again, in the original Christian tradition, in the article that Vivek sent, it's used in the proper way. And so that means that whoever went wherever picked up what was good and brought it on into their country, into their tradition. And so in all of this that we have tried to share and think, and as I told Larry, after all, it's spanda. So we don't want to remain limited to just thinking, what is spanda? Spanda is an inspiration. It's a vibration. It's a vibration each one of us carries every day into our world. And so basically it's Mother's Day. So what is, as Nitin said, the mother is the first guru, the first teacher, the first person the child hangs out with. And the mother says, this is your father. And so the child believes that this is the father from whom I have gotten birth. And so Baba Muktananda often gave a lot of talks on how a mother has to be positive, a mother has to be uplifting, a mother has to be aware, a mother has to be conscious. Right now it's spring, so you see a lot of birds' nests, and you see a lot of mothers going around picking up food for the babies. And in some birds, the male has to build a nest. And in Magod, we have this one particular grass that the male brings, and he tries to build a house, and the better the house, the better the female bird that he will attract. The better the nest, the better the female bird that he will attract, and then they'll mate, and then they'll have. So for a long time, I thought the young children of Sharda Prabha were cutting up these pieces of grass and throwing it on the walkway. It was only one day when somebody pointed out to me that there is a bird. He's struggling to build a nest on this particular branch. But he puts the grass and the grass falls down. He puts the grass and the grass falls down. It was only when I went to one of the windows of Shanta Sitaram, a building that people live in, and he found a way to get in between the glass and the screen. And I didn't quite understand how the birds would get in there, but he was getting all his grass in there and layering it up like a nest. What happened, I don't know, because I never went back to that room. I was not curious enough, I forgot, to know what was the outcome. But basically, what I want to say is that nature in itself is always also trying to be good. Nature in its own way. You see a lot of pictures on social media of two different animals. One that would normally be eaten by the bigger animal, protecting the younger one because he knows that it needs protection. And so you begin to think to yourself and you begin to ask yourself, that means all of this which our sages have written in the scriptures, reminding us again and again. If you look at the various mantras, they basically remind us that what you want to do is be positive. In one of the Upanishads it says, Vang me manasi pratitishtata, mano me vachi pratishtitam, away mam edhi. So here the sage of the Upanishad is praying to the divine that let my speech be well established in my mind. So you're not just speaking, you're not just saying something, but it's speech that's well established. And the mind is well established in the speech. So both ways that the speech and the mind are established in each other. And O thou manifest one, be manifest for me. She's telling the divine, I know you are everywhere, you are consciousness, but yet let me experience the manifestation. Let me feel that manifestation. So I want that my Vedic studies that I have done, that I become established in that, and that I maintain this study day and night. So this Mangala, Shiva, Swasti, Shubha, Shri, Bhadra, that my mind is simply pondering that goodness again and again. Protect me, protect the speaker, let all of that protect us. And Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So, I read a joke yesterday and I thought I'll share that. It's from Stephen Hawking. He says, I have noticed that even people who claim everything is predetermined and that we cannot do anything to change it, still look before they cross the road. A sense of humor for a moment, right? Well, So, while we claim whatever we claim, basically the why I share this is that means on one hand you are saying something, but you are not actually established in the knowledge or the understanding of that which you are saying. It is simply something you've read, you've heard, and so you are parroting it, but do I really believe in it? Is the question that I have to ask myself, because if everything is already determined, it's going to happen, technically it will happen. It's just a matter of how, when, where. But what our scriptures tell us, the change, if anything, that you want to bring about is the workshops that Vivek is doing on positivity. Tan me manaha Shiva or Shubha Sankalpamastu. O my mind, have auspicious, have noble thoughts. O my mind, have auspicious, have noble thoughts. Now it's amazing that we sit here and we think, oh, everybody knows this. But sadly, I would say 95% of the human population doesn't know this. Doesn't understand purity, doesn't understand cleanliness or hygiene, doesn't understand a lot of these things. When you do the work that Nitin is doing, that you do in all of these rural places, and you go and meet these people, and some things that we naturally take for granted that everyone should know, common knowledge or common sense is not that common. Sometimes has nothing to do with education, because everybody thinks that because you're educated you know what to do. No. Sometimes we see people in the way they behave and the way they act, and then you begin to think. And so I think this is what Larry and Nitin talked about, sitting at the feet of the God or of the Guru. Again, our elders in the early days would always take us to the temple, participate in that ritual, and then just say, sit for a moment. Meaning, take in those vibrations, take in that energy, listen to the mantras, listen to the bell, listen to the conch. Take in the fragrance of the incense, of the ghee lamp. Just now you think, it's a joke I shared here a long time ago. Somebody prays to God and says, why aren't you doing anything about the violence in the schools? And God answers back, because I'm not allowed. Because prayer has been gotten rid of from schools. A child who's going to school in this whole business of becoming secular and not wanting to influence a child in any which way, we've taken out the one most important thing that binds us all together is the experience of divinity. In our modern day school, through Sharda Prabhat, through the kosher workshops, and through everything that we do, even like, as you heard in it, in mindfulness, evenness of mind, stability of mind, we have to start very young. Raki just wrote me a few days ago, and she said, a young man, 20 years old from Valsad, came to her and he said, I want to become free of this addiction to marijuana. And this is a little town in Valsad. And she said, why do you do it? He said, don't you know? Everybody's doing it. When I ask people who do it, why do you do it? They say, well, I have nothing else to do. I'm bored. This is what we have done to our children, to ourselves, to our society. Taken away auspiciousness and brought in suspiciousness. We look at everybody with suspicion. Whereas we would always look at each other and be happy to see a human being. That here's another being, there's another person. But we have a question, we have a doubt. Is he nice? Is she nice? Is he loving? Is she kind? Don't be surprised. I know some of you are thinking, no. Yes, I'm not bluffing. I'm not making this up. So, for each one of us, we need to ponder upon this. We need to think about how can we bring these thoughts. Because what happens, I find, a negative thought goes much faster in through society. And to bring about a shift or a change to the other side is a lot of work. Things have happened all around the world. So we now need to look at, okay, what do we do so that that doesn't happen? that cannot happen again. That should not happen again. That must not happen again. So what do we do? I remember a long time back listening to Tina Turner. I'm sure I don't listen to rock, but I don't know how. I don't know if she ever came to the ashram or not. But anyway, she sang a song. Some of you might be familiar. I try to find out when she sang this, or when was the first time that she sang this. She sings it with a group of children, and she's Buddhist in her practice, I guess. So she sings Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu. And then she got tick 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 tick, tick, all the music that goes on. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. And then the little children from all different places sing this back. She sings it back. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. And then you see the teacher sitting there trying to, lip sync all the children. And of course, this is all a video made in a studio. So how much the children understood, how much, everybody's happy, everybody's excited. The recording artist is also happy and excited. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. And then it repeats, and then picks up a little bit. They sing. And it's been there for years, at least 20 or so years or more, I think. And YouTube is very kind when you start watching something, then it suggests other things. But now I'll see, this was just a day or two ago, that all of a sudden I remembered. I don't know why I remembered, but I remembered. So that means auspicious thoughts, as do inauspicious thoughts or suspicious thoughts, remain. But what we have to do is make auspicious natural. And when I say natural, it should just come, just like the other words come. Everybody's thinking, what other words? I think you all know what other words I mean. Spanish caca, remember? So, I remember when I first started traveling with Swami Brahmanji Maharaj in the early 80s. He would get up and it would be like, Hare, 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 Hare. I was just in my 30s at that time, and Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. And I realized over time that that's what he's done to his mind. That it repeats the mantra, it repeats the name of the God, and so whenever anything would happen, it would be like, Hare, Hare. It's like, instead of just, oh my God, it's like, which is our normal reaction to a situation, it would be like, Hari, it's like, oh Lord, oh God. But in a very devotional manner. So here in this prayer of Tina Turner, that's what she also wants. Swastir Bhavatu, Shantir Bhavatu. Shanti is peace. And then there is Tushtir Bhavatu, satisfaction, contentment. You hear all this if you start paying attention to when Lavarji does his pujas, when Prabal does his pujas, you'll hear some of these words come. And because we just repeated, they said, we repeated back to them, we don't think about it. Hopefully again in their dream state, they will translate the Shorashopchara puja, the puja that we do in Sanskrit into English, Roman, and the meaning. So when you do a puja, you'll realize that every day the puja is about just allowing yourself to come to these thoughts. We've all heard the story You give a student a white paper with one little dot black, and you say, "What do you see?" The child says, "I see the black dot." And the teacher asks, "Why don't you see the white space? Why don't you see the blank space? Why do you see the black dot?" But again, that's what our mind goes to that. Did you hear? The rest we can fill in the blank. So we are driven so much by kaka. Kaka in Hindi or Sanskrit, whenever it means uncle. So, right? I don't know why the Spanish chose this word. So anyway, monkey quote.
There's a famous monkey on the internet.
Uh-huh.
Asian people, they have little monkeys and they dress them and they make videos. There's this one famous one, he's called Kaka. He's very, very funny.
Okay. I haven't seen him yet, so. So I think, as we shared some days ago, we just had an Indian satsang at a home. I said this word auspicious. The child looks at the mother, auspicious. So I thought, well, maybe we, into our vocabulary, should build in some of these auspicious words and create a positive vocabulary in our society. And growing up again in India and probably here as well, you'd always find elders who'd never use any of those what we could call abusive words, and would always stay with these uplifting or positive and good words. I mean, I saw again with Maharaji, no matter what you said to him, he'd always make sure the conversation and the people in that space who came together, that's what we received and that's what we experienced. So over the last week, whoever I wrote to and thought of, and I simply wrote, harmony must exist between every one of us. That we need to come to a place, whether we live in the ashram, whether we live in society, whether we live amidst the people, there needs to be a harmony, and a genuine harmony. With no hard feelings, no wrong words that are there. Because ultimately, we are all disciples of, devotee of, children of, whether you say Bhagwan Nityananda, whether you say Baba Muktananda, we all come from that divine consciousness. So while a physical mother may have given birth to this physical body or this physical form, the consciousness that dwells within comes from consciousness. And that is that one consciousness that's there within each one of us and prodding us to think of all of these things. And so the inspiration or the thought or the feeling is that Bhagwan Nityananda in his lifetime, Baba Muktananda in his lifetime, inspired all of us to come to that divinity within us. So I was thinking this morning of Baba's message, honor yourself, worship yourself, respect yourself. So for each one of us, as we think of these auspicious words, we sing a mantra, Sarva Mangala Mangalye, Shive Sarvartha Sadhike, Sharanye Triambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. It's again a prayer to the goddess, to the mother, that may all auspiciousness be auspicious. Like life is only filled with that. And the possibility that we have to think about is what wonderful, good, uplifting, beneficial things we can do. And if the mind tends to forget, then write it up on a piece of paper. Put it around your house, put it around places where you can, look at these words: beneficial, uplifting, auspicious, complete, fullness, wholeness, contentment. So for all of us, whatever tradition, whatever path, whatever guru, whatever we follow, we need to bring this into our own life, first of all. Make it an integral part of who we are. And so that whoever we meet, wherever we go, we bring that with us. As we were chanting, of course, the melody we sang here is a little bit different than they do in Ganeshpuri. You can just put Nityananda, Ganeshpuri, and all of the chanting, the various daily artis, and all of this will come up. So instead of allowing the mind to go to all of these places and denigrate, uplift it. Find there's lots of good things, lots of wonderful things. And just like the sage does, whenever unnecessary things come up, just let them go. Blow them away. And let that which is beneficial, auspicious, uplifting, stay with you. So as we think of this next phase of our life, next stage of our life, age doesn't matter here. Just when we think, here we are in May 2023, almost 4.5 months of this year has gone. And what have I done? What have I achieved? What have I gotten? What can I look at in my own life and think of what is it, what auspicious, what beneficial, what uplifting things can I say I have done? Can I stand here and say, like Nitin, that I was able to do this, or this was able to happen, this was a possibility that existed and has come to fruition, and there it's going, it's working, it's doing its thing. So for all of us from around the world, the land of Bhagwan, the land of Baba, needs, wants our support, our assistance, even if we just come and sweep. Figure out a way what to do with the trash. Clean the river. Educate the young people. Give them a bright future. So everyone who is educated in some form or another, who is brilliant in his or her way, and is able to just simply, without ego, surrender and just offer seva, service. And all you have to do is look at the smiles, look at the joy, look at the love bubbling, not just in your own being, but in all others as well. We need that these places of the Guru, our homes, our sanctuaries, our safe places where we can just sit, pray, meditate, chant, sing the Guru Gita, sing the text that we like, and think of the vibration, the spanda that each one of us will send out. So again, inviting everybody to come into this place of inner harmony, inner peace, inner steadiness, to just come together. On the 16th, it will be the solar birthday of Baba Muktananda. We celebrated the full moon birthday on the 5th. On the 16th is the solar birthday. So let us think, let us ponder. We have a chant coming up next Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Just come, sit. Sing when you feel like. Take a bite when you feel like. Have a drink when you feel like. Just allow yourself for those 6 hours to take in the vibration of the song, of the music. Let all of that unnecessary stuff, think of all of this as a filter that stops unwanted thoughts from coming into your mind. So we are grateful to the sages, to the Guru, who have put us on this auspicious path in our life. That which will benefit ourselves, that which will benefit others. So we have the Kirtan, we have the Sarod concert, we have the 3-week course, we have the intensive. All of these things, all designed to make us noble human beings. To bring ourselves to a place where we feel loved, where we feel honored, where we feel worshipped. And when you come to that place, there's nothing like it. So to each and everyone all around the world who participates in whatever way possible for them, I invite you to take a step further, maybe 2 steps further, and see what else can we do. What else can I do as my share in this universal consciousness of divinity? Find a verse that you like. Sing that verse. Understand the meaning of that verse. Break up that verse. Then may all of us, like Acharya Jha, be inspired to offer upliftment, to offer love, to offer kindness, to offer compassion. So I pray to the Sadguru that we all benefit from this. We all uplift. And may we soak and remain absorbed in that grace, in that blessing. So we'll conclude our satsang here today with Danya Danya and Jyot Se Jyot, followed by a delicious meal that Prabhu's been working on all morning. And Dhanya dhanya ho pradakshina Satguru Rayachi Zali Twara Suravara Vimana Uttaraya. Padopadiya Paradalya Manyacharashi Padopadiya Paradalya Manyacharashi Padopadiya Paradalya Manyacharashi भजनाचा महिमान करे आगमा निगमासी गुरु भजनाचा महिमा न कले आगमा निगमासी अनुभवते जानति जय गुरुपद जय दक्षिणा करुणी देह भावेवा प्रदक्षिणा करुणी देह भावेवा हिला श्रीरंग आत्मज विठ्ठल पुढे उभा धन्य धन्य हो प्रदक्षिणा सद्गुरु राजा झाले समर्था त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव दुरत्तरो दुःखदर्द सब दया करो भगवान मन मंदिर में उज्ज्वल हो तेरा ही मंदिर जिस घर में हो आरती चरण कमल चितला हरि वासा करे ज्योत अनंत जगाए या भक्त कीर्तन करे बहे प्रेम दरिया श्रवण करे सत्य लोक से आए
शांति
Ayurveda, and Vivek has a workshop on that as well, I saw. So we come to the conclusion of our satsang here this morning. If you need any answers, please see the concerned people, whoever it is that is supplying the answers. The whiteboard outside has all the details of all the programs coming up. We have about a month more here in Shanti Mandir, Walden, and as most of you know, Devyani went this Tuesday to be with her father, and I'll just read out I think it's a generic message that probably went to everyone, whoever has probably written to her or been in touch with her. Her email is devyani@shantimandir.com. Namaste everyone. Greetings from our Father's home. Thank you for all your calls, texts, emails, prayers and wishes. Our Father is definitely on the decline with zero energy, shortness of breath, constant headache and persistent cough, and very tired and weak. It is hard to witness and see him in discomfort. We spoke with his oncologist and she suggested that we are weeks away, not months. While we are enjoying his presence and sharing these moments and time with him, we pray that he is blessed with a quick departure, free of pain and any elongated suffering. Your continued prayers for John Trent Cable are deeply appreciated. A orange, pink, and an orange heart. So that's where she is. For those of you wondering where Devyani is with her father, his wife, and sister, just spending these last days together. And if you look up death and what all happens around there, for as much as there is sadness, it's also a very uplifting experience, which unfortunately, again, our modern day society does not allow us to experience or feel. So just as birth we think of as a wonderful experience, it's the same with death. So we all offer our prayers for Devyani's father, John Trent Cable, and pray that the passing is smooth, and as he said to me, either on his lazy boy chair where he is sitting, or in his bed next to his wife, and just go off as is in his sleep. So everyone's invited to have prasad, and again, joyous Mother's Day to everyone all around the world. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai.